Good morning. This is John Hauser with my YouTube channel, Free Advice from 76 Years. And I'm here to give you another hard-hitting video full of free information and free advice. And like I said before, if you don't like the advice, it's no problem because it is actually totally free. Not going to cost you anything but a little bit of time to watch. And speaking of watching, if you're watching, please like and subscribe. I started this YouTube channel January 1 of this year. So I'm in a little over 4 months, and I'm trying to build my channel up. Hello, my name is John Hauser. I'm 76 years old, and the name of my YouTube channel is Free Advice from 76 Years. I am retired. I retired in 2018. 8 years ago. And now I've been retired eight years, and now I'm 76. And I'm really enjoying my retirement. And I want to tell you a little bit about my story, tell you a little bit about my retirement planning, tell you some of the things that I've done, and some of the things I haven't done. I have a whole list of things here on my outline that I want to share with you. All right, so I'm doing a video on what I do in retirement. Well, let me go back a ways and kind of start from the beginning. And the beginning was that in 2018, I retired. Now, my wife and I had talked about it for many, many months. We made arrangements to sell our existing home. We were able to sell our existing home, and which was paid for. Our existing home was paid for. We had no mortgage on it. It had been paid for a few years. And take that money and turn around and buy another house that was all on one level, a ranch-style house. We needed to get the steps out of our lives. You know, a 2- and 3-floor house for young people is fine, but my wife's had knee surgery, and I've had a few knee problems. So getting a house on one level was a huge advantage. So that's one of the things that we did, was we planned to have a house that was comfortable and on one level. So we went from a house that was 2,400 square feet on 3 levels to a house that's 2,600 square feet on one level. We did not really downsize. As a matter of fact, I think now we got more stuff than ever. But that was in 2018. We retired, and like I say, we'd been planning it 2016, 2017, but 2018 we retired. My wife retired a year before I did. Now, one of the things that was happening was that after I retired, it didn't take me long to get caught up on all the things I wanted to do list. I got to do all the fishing I wanted to do. I did yard work. I had the cars clean. We took a cruise. I was reading books. I love to read several books. But after about 90 days and then into about 6 months, I'm like, this is not really working out. I have too much time and too much energy. So the first thing that I did was I started selling on eBay. I had no idea what I was doing. But I knew that in my retirement, I need to have something. So I bought a couple of video games at the thrift store. I had no clue what I was doing. And I put them on eBay. I had two listings on eBay. And one of those video games sold, and it sold for $1. And I thought, well, if I could sell an item for $1, I can probably sell an item for $100, because I was just experimenting. But the thing about it is, it brought some excitement and some challenge back into my life. When I was working, I was in outside sales, and I traveled a lot, and there was always the challenge of doing a presentation and, you know, writing an order, writing a deal. But after I retired, that sensation, that challenge, that went away. And so by selling stuff on eBay, I kind of brought that back into my life. I brought back that challenge of finding something and selling it. So I went from selling 1 to 2 items a month to where I ended up selling over 6,000 items. That's right, over 6,000 items with an average profit of about $10 per item. So over the course of those years that I was doing eBay, I literally generated around $60,000 worth of business, or $60,000 worth of income, rather. But it was over several years. It wasn't all in 1 year. I'm not going to hype it up and say I made a huge amount of money, when in reality, I didn't make that much. That was over a 6-year period. So I was bringing in an extra $10,000 per year above our retirement income. Now that extra $10,000 a year came in handy. It helped when we came time to buy some additional cars. It also came in handy when we decided to take some trips, and we just took a trip and we're now planning another one. But that was some good extra money. I mean, you know, you're retired, you're living on Social Security, you're living on a small pension, you're living on a 401k payment, and then all of a sudden you add an extra $1,000 a month to your income. It feels good. It really does. And now it's set up that with no tax on Social Security and how much you're allowed to make, you can make that extra money, and it can really enhance your retirement. So here I am now at 76, and I literally went back to work, but I didn't go back to work for a company. I'm now doing freelance. And the reason I like to do freelance is because I get to set my own schedule, I get to set my own hours, and I can set a goal for how much money I want to make. Now, it's not big money. I don't want anybody to watch this video and get excited and think you're going to go out there and make millions of dollars in a part-time job or part-time business. No, I'm talking about making an extra $800, $1,000, $1,200, maybe $2,000 in a month. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what I did. There were some months in eBay where I would actually clear $2,000, but there were also months in eBay when I would clear $500. But whatever it was, it came in handy, and we put the money to good use. We spent it. We took some trips. You know, we did stuff, and we're going to continue to do stuff. Because one thing I have discovered about being at this age is that when you retire, for some strange reason, when we retire, we think, well, that's it, it's over. I'm done working. You know, I'm just going to retire and, you know, the end will come around. Well, that's not true. Now, like most people my age, like I say, I'm 76. Most people my age, I've got aches and pains. And I've got some issues with some different body parts. But you don't let that stop you. You know, recently saw my doctor, and the doctor said, take Tylenol a couple of times a day as needed. So I took her advice. And I've got several doctor's appointments coming up that I have to go see different types of doctors. But here's the thing. Just because you got to go see a doctor doesn't mean life's over. There's a lot of life left. Think about this. What if you are my age, 76 years old, and all of a sudden you discover that there's a possibility that you might live another 20 years? It's very, very possible. I have on my shelf right over there a book by George Burns. Here, I'll get it and show it to you. Bear with me just a second. I have a book here on my shelf, George Burns. George Burns lived to be 100, and he wrote this big, thick book, and he wrote most of this book when he was older than I am. So there's a very possibility you might be around for another 20 years. And you have to think, now, what could I do in those next 20 years? What kind of car could I drive? What kind of house could I live in? What kind of places could I travel to? What kind of restaurants can we visit? Do we want to visit a foreign country? Or do we just want to do another trip to Florida? My wife and I just did a nice little trip to Florida where we got to see some gators up close and personal, saw them accidentally. We weren't looking for them. But what could you do over the next 20 years if you woke up and you had that thought early in the morning, hey, I might get 20 more years out of this, or 10, or 5. or maybe it's the last year. But why not make the most out of the last years of our life? A friend of mine said a while back, he said, the golden years are not so golden. But I've given that a lot of thought. And I think the golden years can be determined by not just circumstances, but by your attitude. This is a time in life when we see people passing away almost daily. My wife and I almost daily learn about somebody that has passed away, some famous person. This morning I saw on the news that Ted Turner had passed away. He was in his early 80s. And we had a pastor of a church we used to attend recently passed away. He was 84. So people are passing away all the time. People that we know, people that we knew in high school, that we knew in college, they're passing away. So we realize that the end is out there. That their end is out there. We realize that. And we have both made preparations with God. We both have trusted Jesus Christ as our Savior. And even my wife told me as recently as a day or two ago, she said, if the Lord calls me home, I'm ready to go. So you want to be ready. But at the same time, you want to look at what the possibilities are. What if I were to live 20 more years? Now, you have to admit that I look pretty good. I look pretty good for a guy that's hitting 76. I do have some gray. I have these eyebrows. I don't know what happened to these eyebrows, but they have exploded on me. But I look pretty good, and I feel pretty good. And even though I'm having some issues with my mobility, and I've been taking some different supplements, and I've been doing some different exercises. Last night, my wife and I, we were able to go out and take a walk, and we walked for 2.7 miles. I was really impressed because just a few weeks ago, I could barely walk a mile. So something is working correctly. And again, I started doing some additional exercises, and I am taking some supplements. But let's talk about this. What could be the possibility of the next 20 years? Let's say you do hang around 20 more years. What are the possibilities? Well, one of the things that I continue to do now that I did when I was working is I continue to set goals. I continue to set goals. Now, goals could be a to-do list. These are the things, you write them down. These are the things that I'd like to do this week, around the house, or whatever. But you set goals. My wife has a birthday coming up real soon, and I wanted to do something special for her. So we have rented an Airbnb cabin right off the coast of North Carolina. We'll be there for 5 nights. Set a goal. Figure out what's the next trip. What's the next thing that you want to do? Your goal could be improve your physical condition, which I'm working on currently. Or your goal could be to lose some weight. Or your goal could be to help somebody at church. But if you have a goal and something that you're working towards, that can help you stay alive. It really can. All right, so goals. What would be your goals for the next 20 years? Now, I have a friend. His name is JD, and I'm hoping to do a video on him and his car. And he has this car. It's a 1964 Ford Galaxie 500, 2-door, with a 4-speed on the floor and a 390 under the hood with a double dipper 4-barrel carburetor. And he took me out for a ride in it the other day, and it is really an amazing car. He's had this car since 1967, and he's in the process of restoring it. Now, JD's older than I am, and I actually went over there a couple of Saturdays ago and helped him put a windshield in this car, and basically I was just the third hand. I didn't do much. But his goal is to get this car rebuilt. And this is a car that him and his wife dated in 1967. Think about that. He's had this car since 1967, and he's basically rebuilding it from the ground up. That's his goal. That's his dream. I've never seen anybody as happy as he was that Saturday morning 2 weeks ago when we got into that 67 Ford. He's got side pipes, dual exhaust, and we got out on the road there, and he went through all 4 gears. and that four-barrel will push you back in the seat. It was fun, but that's his goal. That's his dream, is rebuilding that car. So what would we do for the next 20 years if there was even the slightest possibility that we could live 20 more years? But what if the slightest possibility is that you're only going to live another year or two? You want to make the most of your time. In your retirement planning, in your retirement goals, you want to make the most of your time. Now, I love to watch TV and old movies as much as anybody, but TV and old movies are not really life. It's just, junk food, more or less. Now, we do love to watch the old black and white movies. They're just great. But anyhow, goals. Let's talk about activity. My wife and I, we go to church generally 3 times a week. We generally go Sunday morning, Sunday night, and Wednesday night. Today's Wednesday. We will go to church tonight. Activities. And it's not just going to church, but it's a church where you can participate in the service. Our pastor does a great job. There's great music. Plus, there's great fellowship. There's always a lot of handshaking and hello, how are you? And people checking on each other. Warm, wonderful fellowship that motivates you to go back. And again, the pastor does a great job. If you live in Wilson, North Carolina, Tabernacle Baptist Church is the church that I attend. And we have many, many retired people there. But activity. And again, one of the activities we do is we like to do little trips. We just recently made a trip to Florida. My wife has a Lexus SUV. It's a RX 350 or something like that. And we drove that to Florida and back. That was a very exciting trip. It was tiring because we drove. I mean, it's like 12 hours each way, but it was a great trip. And on the way down there, we stopped at the Air Force Museum, dedicated to the 8th Air Force, which was started down there in Georgia way back in World War II. We went in there and we saw a B-17. I mean, this is keeping our life exciting, is doing these activities. So you want to do activities. You want to do these things. We have friends that we get together with and play board games. And we have friends that we go to lunch with, we go to dinner with, we go to church with. A lot of great activities. So activities. Next thing is times of peace. Sometimes I just like to make a cup of tea and go outside to the gazebo, and I have a ceiling fan there, and sit under the ceiling fan either in the morning or the evening, and then just enjoy the quiet of our backyard and just enjoy a time of peace. Sometimes I'll take a book. Sometimes I take my Bible. Sometimes I just take a cup of tea and go out there and relax. As a matter of fact, about 9 o'clock last night, we were sitting under that ceiling fan, and my wife said, "Shut the fan off, it's too cool." But we sat out there for about 30 minutes and just had some nice conversation. Okay, Uber. I drive for Uber. I talked about working eBay for a while. Going back to that for a second, I sold items on eBay. I sold items on Facebook Marketplace. I sold items on different websites. But after a while, I felt like I needed something different, so I started driving for Uber. And I just made a video on this if you want to go watch that video. There are pros and cons to driving for Uber. The pro is this. I get to set my own schedule. I get to work when I want to work, and I make a few extra $100. Excuse me. A few extra $100 a week. Here's my Uber nights. Uber notes. I'll go through my Uber notes real quick and tell you. Here's the upside of working Uber. If you're thinking about, hey, I'm retired, I need something to do, give this a try. Even if it's only for a month or two. Give it a try. It's fun. Uber, the ups. I work when I want to work. You get to pick your riders. You get to pick your time. You can set your earnings amount. You can pick premium areas. And you have the adventure of driving around to different places and meeting new people. And you can have fun with it. And being retired is a great way to earn extra money. And I like to go to Greenville, which is about 45 miles from here. But in Greenville, I can do a whole lot of Ubering in a small area. And it pays premium. And I do daytime hours only. I don't do it at night. Well, I actually do it at night for special customers, people that I know, but not just for random rides. So I do it at daytime. And you can pick your rides. If you're not happy with a customer, you don't have to give them a ride. But Uber is a good way to make some extra money and enjoy your retirement. It's also fun. Okay. Okay, another thing I like to do is, I've already talked about those things, is journaling. I keep all these little journals around. And I write things down. And every day I'm writing typically 3 to 4 pages of thoughts and ideas, and I do journaling. And I have stacks of journals that go way back. And you might wonder, well, why would you journal when you're retired? Journaling, the act of taking a pen and putting that pen to paper is good for your mind. This morning I wrote, I think, about 3 pages, and you sit down and you just write down everything that you're thinking about. And as you're writing it down, it also helps you to create new ideas. So I'm a big believer in journaling. I've been doing it for years. I've got stacks of these notebooks. Every now and then I go back and I open them up and I say, what nut wrote this? Journaling. Okay, Bible study. My wife and I are involved in 2 Bible studies outside of the church. And Bible studies are a great way to learn more about the Bible. And it's also a great way to have fellowship with friends who have a like interest. My wife goes to a ladies' Bible study on Tuesday morning, and I typically go to a Bible study on Monday night. Plus, we also go to Bible study on Wednesday night at the church. We're very involved in the church, and I think Bible study is very important. Get this. The end of life is coming very, very soon. Get this point. The end of life is coming very, very soon. You know, I'm talking about maybe another 20 years. But I doubt if there'll be another 30 years. Got to understand what I'm saying here. The clock is ticking. None of us get out of here alive. And what does Bible study do for you? Bible study can help you understand what's going to happen in eternity, and Bible study can help you make those preparations. Make those preparations. So I'm a big believer in Bible study. And if you are not currently studying the Bible and you live in Wilson, go to Tabernacle Baptist Church on Airport Road. Get involved. I think you'll enjoy it. But that's one of the things we do is Bible study. Another thing I really enjoy is time with my wife. Now, my wife had a major heart attack back in November the 9th, 2023. So it's soon going to be 3 years. I really enjoy spending time with her. Before she had that heart attack, I'm afraid we were kind of taking each other for granted. We were retired. We had plenty of free time. We didn't have any financial worries. And really, we still don't. But she had this heart attack. She almost died. After that, I began to realize that time is really precious. And we need to spend that time together. In retirement, a husband and wife have got to make sure that they practice and think about loving each other. I've seen so many couples, even us included, that after they retire, they treat their spouse like, oh, that's just my spouse, my wife or husband, ho-hum. No, you need to treat them as good now as you did before you retired. I take my wife out to lunch once or twice a week. Yesterday she said she was hungry for a hot dog. And she wanted to go to this little restaurant called Best in Burgers. I said, if that's where you want to go, that's where we went. And we went, and she got one of those, I think they're called bright leaf hot dogs. And I had a nice hot burger. Take your wife to lunch. Spend time with your lunch. Spend time with your wife. This is a time to enjoy your spouse. And like I say, last night we went out and walked 2.7 miles. Our oldest daughter has come in from Texas, and she was spending some time with us. So you want to spend time with your wife. Time with Susan. Time with your spouse. You want to stay mentally sharp. There's a lot of things that you can do to stay mentally sharp. I met a gentleman the other day same age as me, but he was talking about he feels like he's got some kind of an onset mental problem. There are supplements on the market that can help you stay mentally sharp. And I take some of those supplements. Some of those supplements are as simple as 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C a day. Another supplement I take is called Power Thought. It's by a company called Blue Bonnet. You can order it on Amazon. Now, I have no links, so I'm not selling any products at this time. I may eventually. But these are some products that I use to help the mind. They help you stay sharp. And an occasional cup of coffee will help you stay mentally alert too. You want to stay mentally sharp. You want to stay mentally alert. You don't want to lose your ability to think. You don't want to lose your ability to make decisions. In your retirement and in your retirement planning and in your retirement life, you want to maintain those healthy abilities that you had before you retired. Now, I know this may not be true for everybody because we all have different health conditions. Like I said earlier, I'm facing some health conditions. My wife is. But you want to stay mentally sharp. And again, one of the ways to stay mentally sharp is to read. I love to read. Reading is better than watching TV. Or you might even want to consider starting a YouTube channel. One of the things I've noticed about having this YouTube channel is that it helped me become a little sharper mentally. Now, some guys on YouTube, they talk with their hands all over the place. I'm pretty much just sitting in one spot with my photos behind me. And yes, I'm a war hero. You can take that for what it's worth. I don't know if I'm a war hero or not. I just love to say that. But anyway, you want to stay mentally sharp. You want to maintain a good sense of humor. Now, make sure you get plenty of sleep. You've got to rest. And this is a problem I had when I was not retired, is that I was working. I wasn't getting properly rested. But you need to get lots of sleep, lots of rest, and you want mild exercise, mild to moderate exercise. You don't want to let your body get too weak. I have 10-pound weights, and that's as heavy as I lift. 10 pounds in each hand, up and down several times in the morning or in the afternoon. It, again, helps to wake your body up and do the walks. You want to stay mentally sharp. Mentally sharp. Stimulate your memory. Stimulate your mind. You can do that through reading, through conversation. You can do it through taking some supplements. Just make sure they're all legal. Okay. Now, mild exercise. Now, I've started doing some leg lifts. I also have exercise bikes. We walk, but keep your exercises mild. At least that works for me because I'm having some joint issues. So I have found that using mild exercises, I can continue to maintain my strength while dealing with those joint issues. Now, here's the next part. Even though you're retired, you still want to learn more. That's why I started a YouTube channel. I wanted to do more. I wanted to learn more. So you want to learn more. You want to do more. Just because we're retired doesn't mean we have to do less. No, it should be just the opposite. These are the years that we waited for our whole life. Our whole life. We waited for those years when we can do what we wanted to do, when we wanted to do it. And now is the time. Learn more, do more, and be more. Be more. And how do you be more? Well, it's very simple. From reading books, from learning, from associating with other people. A famous person once said that 5 years from now, you will only be changed by the people you've met or the books that you've read. Well, I want to add into that some experiences. That's a pretty good philosophical statement. But you want to learn more, do more, and be more, because more is better. You can grow as a person after you're retired. You can press on. You can learn to do more, be more, and it can be more. Let me say it again. Learn more, do more, be more. We can do that. We can do that. Just because we're retired doesn't mean we can't do it. I have a close friend that travels for a living, and he just sent me a message this morning. He's back in the United States. That's him. That's his. This is what he wants to do. For me, what am I doing? Well, I was selling stuff, but now I'm doing a YouTube channel. I was selling stuff, but now I'm doing Uber. Yep. And I may even pick up some other items as I go along. Okay. Winston Churchill. Winston Churchill. I have several books on my shelf written by Winston Churchill. Several. Winston Churchill said that he never felt more alive than he did during the years of World War II. In other words, during the years of World War II, because of the stress and the anxiety of what he was going through, he felt more alive. Winston Churchill did not become the prime minister until he was 65 years old. He wasn't a young man, and he went through all that stress. He said it was the best part of his life because he felt more alive during World War II than any other time. But somebody said to him, well, Winston, you can't have a war all the time. And Winston Churchill did some of his best work and wrote some of his best works, wrote some of his best books after he retired. And he lived to be 85 years old. And he wrote a lot of books. Winston Churchill once went to Boston. And they asked him, he said, how do you like Boston? He said, better to have lunch in Boston than have a tea party. I always thought that was a good quote. And then you have to look at our current president. Our current president is 79 years old and has more energy than most people half his age. Warren Buffett just recently retired, 93 years old, just recently retired. Just decided it was finally time to just retire. So the time is there, and if you have the energy, and I'm telling you that energy can be developed and energy can be increased. I actually got to a point in my retired life where I felt dull, I felt lethargic, I felt sleepy all the time, and I'm like, this is not the way to be. So I started taking some supplements like vitamin C. I started doing some mild exercises. I started selling stuff on eBay. I sold stuff on Poshmark. I sold stuff on Facebook Marketplace. I would get out and go to yard sales and find stuff and then resell it. And I would read. And then I started doing Uber. Now I'm doing YouTube. I'm not sure what the next project is going to be. My goal right now is to get my channel monetized. So I'm going to ask you to like and subscribe. But my goal is to build this YouTube channel to the point where it starts producing some income. And then I'm going to look for another project. In 2023, I got to go zip lining for the first time in my life. Went zip lining in northern Oregon in these really tall trees, one to another. It took us like an hour and a half to hit all these zip lines. Jet skis. I've gone out and ridden some jet skis. Go-karts. And I have a Mustang. I have a Mustang. You can probably see a picture of a Mustang right there. Mine is a newer model, but I do have a Mustang. And I got friends. Now, it's not all just joy and happiness. I don't mean to make it sound like that, because there are stresses that come along. Like I say, my wife and I both have some medical conditions we're dealing with, so we have those stresses. We both have some aches and pains. But we're both trusting in God, trusting in the Lord, and working to make the best of what we have left. You know, the guy likes to say the best is yet to come. Well, at the end of this life, if you know Christ as your Savior, the best is actually yet to come. Because when we leave this life and get translated into heaven, there will be eternal peace and eternal joy. This is John Hauser with my YouTube channel, Free Advice. Thank you for watching. Now we'll see if my remote control shuts off so I can turn this thing off. Oh, it's not working.